The film opens with Lincoln, a man paralyzed with movement limited to his head, one finger, and his shoulders. He was once a top forensic expert. During an investigation, police discovered a corpse in a subway tunnel. Intent on gathering evidence from the scene, Lincoln made his way toward the body, managing to get close to the victim. Just then, however, a heavy beam collapsed on him, which is the cause of his current condition. This is the very incident that haunts Lincoln's dreams, causing him to awaken suddenly even now. The scene then transitions, showing us a prominent builder and his wife outside an airport. Their names are Alan and Lindsay, and they are waiting for their driver to arrive with the car. When their ride does not appear on time, they opt to take a taxi instead and, exhausted, fall asleep inside it. Later, as Lindsay awakens during the trip, she realizes they are traveling on an unfamiliar road, not the route to their home. Lindsay quickly rouses Alan, and the two of them manage to lock themselves inside the car. It becomes clear that the taxi driver has now abducted them both. The story then returns to Lincoln, who is asking his nurse, Thelma, for a vodka, to which she responds by giving him juice instead. Shortly after, medical technician Richard Thompson arrives and informs Lincoln about an issue with his heart monitor, saying he will return tomorrow to replace it, and then he departs. Following this, Dr. Barry arrives to check on Lincoln's condition. From their conversation, it is evident that Lincoln has grown despondent about his state. Many parts of his body are non-functional, and he also suffers from seizures, making him believe death would be a mercy. This is why he makes a request to Dr. Barry. The doctor promises that upon his return by the following Sunday, he will submit a petition for his assisted suicide. Thelma overhears this entire exchange, yet she feels happy on Lincoln's behalf. Next, we are introduced to Amelia, who works as a police officer. It is apparent from a conversation between Amelia and her husband that their marriage is currently facing serious difficulties. Amelia later learns while on duty that a child has discovered something near an old railway track that has left him terrified. When Amelia gets to the location, she discovers a hand sticking out from the earth. One of its fingers had been severed, and the killer had placed an engagement ring upon it. Amelia then brushes away some soil from the ground and uncovers Alan's body, the same man who was kidnapped from a taxi with his wife just days before. The sight of the body frightens Amelia slightly, after which she looks farther ahead and finds several items on the railway track, which include a newspaper clipping, a book page with the number 119 on it, a large bolt, and a small pile of sand. At that moment, a train appears on the same track, which Amelia manages to stop just in time, preventing the evidence from being destroyed. Upon further investigation, she also discovers a footprint. Amelia photographs all the evidence. Soon, the forensic experts and other police officers arrive, and Amelia hands all the pictures to her senior officer, Detective Polly, after which Detective Howard shows up and reprimands Amelia for halting the train. We then see Alan's wife, Lindsay, being dragged by a man into an abandoned tunnel, where he handcuffs her hands and fastens them to a pipe. In the following scene, we see Detective Polly and Solomon visiting Lincoln to get his opinion, providing him with all the details they have on this case. From their discussion, we learn that Lincoln still assists the police occasionally with his forensic knowledge and experience despite his physical limitations. For this reason, the government covers the entire expense of his medical care. Lincoln then tells them that this is a ransom situation and that the killer might contact them soon. Detective Polly then shows him the photographs of all the collected evidence. Suddenly, Lincoln begins to have another seizure, so Thelma asks both detectives to step outside. After a moment, Lincoln loses consciousness. When he awakens, he uses his system to zoom in on all the photos with Thelma's help. From the pictures of the two paper clues, he sees the newspaper has 4 p.m. circled, while the other paper is page number 119 from a book. Lincoln immediately grasps its meaning. The killer is issuing a challenge to him, and he figures out the time of November 9th at 7 p.m., which indicates the killer was planning to commit another murder yesterday at 4 p.m. When Lincoln learns that Amelia took these photographs, he summons her for a meeting. At this time, Amelia's promotion to the Youth Service Division has just been approved. She is attending a class when Detective Solomon comes to take her to see Lincoln. After her arrival, Lincoln gathers all her information from Amelia and commends her for her intelligent work at the crime scene. He asks her to continue working on this case, but Amelia initially refuses. However, after receiving a direct order from Senior Detective Polly, she agrees to stay on the case. Lincoln then informs everyone that Lindsay is still alive, but is scheduled to be killed at 4 p.m. Then, a lab technician named Eddie arrives, who explains that after analyzing the sand, he determined it is not sand, but is actually powdered oyster shell. This helps Lincoln realize that Lindsay is somewhere in the old mall building. Afterward, he consults the crime scene board and deduces Lindsay is trapped within an underground steam junction, where steam is released every evening at 4 p.m. Following this, Lincoln instructs Amelia to head there with detectives Polly and Solomon. We see the killer turning a pipe towards Lindsay's face, after which he leaves, because only a few minutes remained until 4 p.m. clock. Soon after, Amelia also arrives at the location with the detectives. Amelia maintains radio contact with Lincoln, where she locates a tunnel, but Lindsay is on the opposite side of the wall. Some men there attempt to close the pipe's valve, but it shatters. As the clock strikes 4, a huge amount of steam begins to erupt, and Lindsay is killed by its intense heat. Everyone is devastated because they were unable to rescue her. Lincoln then tells Amelia to go to the body first to collect evidence, because he doesn't want the police and emergency units to accidentally contaminate the evidence, which Amelia does. She then looks upon Lindsay's corpse, which has been completely burned. Searching the area, she discovers a bone, another old piece of paper, and some hair, which she secures. Lincoln then asks her to describe the condition of the body, to which she replies that there is a handcuff on her hands, a chain is tied around her waist, and her legs are also bound with a rope. Lincoln then instructs Amelia to cut off Lindsay's hand to retrieve the handcuffs, as they might contain the killer's fingerprints, but Amelia is unable to bring herself to do this, and she leaves the scene. After this, Lincoln does a little research into Amelia's life, from which he learns her father was a police officer who shot himself for an unknown reason. Amelia was very young at that time, and she was the one who first discovered her father's body. Perhaps this is why Amelia was so scared today. We then see Amelia, who is crying profusely while remembering her father, and she ignores Lincoln's call. But then Detective Solomon arrives, who informs Amelia that Lincoln sent him to bring her back. Amelia agrees to go with Solomon as requested. In the next scene, a boy gets into a taxi outside a nightclub, and we realize it is the same taxi that Alan and Lindsay had been in, meaning this boy has now also been kidnapped. He is the killer's next victim. The killer then takes him to an unknown location and ties the boy to a pipe with a chain. After that, he uses a knife to make a deep gash in his leg, from which the rats nearby catch the scent of his blood and start to lick him. Then we see Amelia, who has returned to meet with Lincoln. Lincoln tells her that when he learned about her father, he finally understood why she didn't do what he had asked her to do. After that, he talks about himself, explaining that his father had only studied up to the 8th grade and had probably read only 10 books in his entire life, while he has read about 1,000 books and has also written dozens of books. He tells her that whatever happened to her father does not necessarily have to happen to her, because we all create our own destiny. This makes Amelia very emotional, and she immediately gets back to work on the case. Just then, Polly informs them that a boy was abducted last night. After that, they start analyzing the new evidence. It is determined from the hairs that they belonged to a rat, and the piece of bone was from a cow, but nothing definitive could be learned from the paper fragment. Lincoln then begins studying it by combining the two pieces of paper, and eventually he realizes that this is some kind of puzzle. From this, Lincoln understands that the killer is intentionally leaving clues for them, so that he can place the blame on them for the murders. He does not want to be held responsible himself. After this, he connects all the evidence and arrives at the conclusion that the killer must have taken the boy to a slaughterhouse which is located underground, and in this way he pinpoints the location. After this, Amelia and the others go to that slaughterhouse, where Amelia discovers that rats have eaten the boy's corpse. Looking further, Amelia finds a matchbox and a third piece of paper, which she collects before starting to leave. But, still under pressure from Detective Howard, Lincoln is removed from the case. Howard takes all the evidence from Amelia and orders her to accompany him to the police station. As soon as he arrives there, he finds fingerprints on the box of that matchbox. After he checks the database, the fingerprints match those of a taxi driver. Without any delay, Detective Howard goes to that taxi driver's location, but when he gets there, he finds the corpse of that taxi driver, with one of his fingers cut off. Here, we understand that the killer did this to misdirect the police. So Detective Howard and his colleagues have to return from there empty-handed. In the next scene, we see Emilio again, who steals a piece of paper from Detective Howard. Now Lincoln has 3 pieces of paper, which he begins to examine again. Then, suddenly, once again Lincoln has a stroke, and he falls unconscious there. Meanwhile, Thelma tells Amelia about his petition for suicide, and Amelia is very sad to learn this, so she starts feeling terrible about Lincoln's condition. Then Howard comes there and asks Thelma for permission to come inside, because he knows that Amelia has stolen the evidence and brought it to Lincoln. Amelia tells him to go and get a warrant. Then after that he can search, but without the warrant, she will not let him enter the house. Howard threatens that this time he will return with the warrant, and he will deal with everyone. When Lincoln regains consciousness, Amelia tells him that Thelma told her everything about his petition, and she inspires him to live his life. Now Lincoln gets on this case with full enthusiasm and starts joining those pieces of paper. At that moment, he sees a logo, which belonged to some publication company, that he had seen on the cover page of a very old crime novel. On the other side of town, the killer is taking an old man and a girl from a station in his taxi, heading somewhere. When a policeman stops him, he kills him. Here, Amelia goes to the library and finds that novel, whose name is The Bone Collector, and so far all the murders have been committed in the exact same way as described in the novel. This tells Amelia about the next murder method and location. Here, Lincoln finds out that a taxi driver killed a policeman and abducted an old man and a girl. After which, Amelia and everyone else start searching for that place. There, Amelia sees that the old man and the girl are tied to the shore of the sea with a stick, and they are drowning due to the high waves of the sea. After getting them out of there, we find out that the old man is dead, but the girl somehow survives. After this, on Lincoln's orders, Amelia searches all around for evidence, and in the end she finds a bone, an old broken police badge, and a map. Looking carefully at the map, Amelia finds out about a station nearby, but by then Detective Howard also arrives there, and now he is going to arrest Amelia for stealing evidence, but she runs away from there at the right time. After that, she goes to a subway station shown in the same map, whose lock was already broken. When she enters, she finds footprints there, which she had found during the murder of Alan. Meanwhile, Amelia was also in contact with Lincoln, but then their signal suddenly cuts off. Now Amelia finds a number written on the wall as she moves forward, and after thinking a lot, she remembers that this is Lincoln's badge number, from which she understands that the next victim of that killer is Lincoln. Here, Detective Howard takes a warrant to Lincoln's house, and at the same time, the killer also comes there. He kills Thelma and Detective Howard with a knife in a jiffy, after which the killer goes inside to Lincoln. And now we can see that the serial killer is none other than the medical technician Richard, whom we saw at the beginning of this film. Lincoln asks him why he did this, and what his enmity is with him. Then Richard says that a few years ago, you wrote some theories on a case, after which a forensic expert was jailed for 6 years. Then Lincoln remembers that because of a forensic expert named Marcus Andrews, 6 innocent people were jailed, one of whom committed suicide. That's why Lincoln had filed a report based on his experience on that case, and had also written a book on it. As a result, Marcus Andrews was jailed for 6 years. Then we come to know that Marcus and Richard are the same man, and Richard did all this to challenge Lincoln, because even after he provided evidence, according to him, they were not able to save anyone, and because of them they had to lose their lives. After which Richard goes ahead to kill Lincoln. Just then, at the right time, Lincoln drops his bed down with a jerk, which injures Richard's hand. Now that killer drags Lincoln down from the bed in a fit of anger, and now Lincoln is about to lose his life. But Lincoln grabs Richard's neck with his teeth in such a way that he is completely stained with blood, and with great difficulty, he is able to get rid of Lincoln. In anger, he is going to kill Lincoln with a knife, but then Amelia shoots him from behind. In this way, Lincoln's life is saved, and the story of Richard, or Marcus, ends here. Now we are shown the time of Christmas, where we come to know that Lincoln has now changed his decision to commit suicide. Amelia also gave her husband a divorce and started living with Lincoln. On Christmas, all of Lincoln's friends and his sister also come, and Lincoln is very happy to see them, because Lincoln had no contact with them and he was completely alone. But Amelia invited them there on Christmas, so that Lincoln could give them his Christmas gift. And with this happy ending, this movie ends here.